All right, today we are diving into a blueprint of the human mind that's over 1,500 years old, the Yoga Charabhumi Shastra. We're going to look at a part of it that gives this psychological analysis that is so detailed, it feels like it could have been written yesterday. And it all kicks off with one really profound question about who we are at our core. So let's just start with a really big question, one that this text wants us to ask ourselves. And it gets right to the heart of how we see ourselves. I mean, really think about it for a second. Underneath all the noise, the stress, the good days, the bad days, what's the fundamental nature of your mind? Is it kind of flawed? Is it inherently good? Or is it something else entirely? Well, the text has a pretty clear and honestly kind of surprising answer. It says flat out that the mind's essential nature is pure. It's undefiled. Now, this isn't just some nice, comforting thought. From a scholarly point of view, this is the core assumption that everything else in the text is built on. I mean, if this is true, it changes everything. Okay, but that brings up a huge question, right? If our minds are naturally pure, then why do we experience things like anger and anxiety and just suffering in general? Why do we struggle so much? This is the central puzzle that the Yoga Charabhumi Shastra is trying to solve. So here's where it gets really interesting, in the details. The text makes this super precise distinction. It argues that defilement isn't part of the mind's nature, but it's something that just temporarily associates with it. You can almost think of it like a perfectly clear stream. The water itself is pure, right? But someone can come along and stir up the mud at the bottom, making it all cloudy. The text is basically saying, our mental muddiness, well, it isn't the water itself. It's just stuff that's temporarily clouding it up. So to get how this muddiness even happens, the text breaks down the basic mechanics of literally any moment of consciousness. It says there are 5 factors that are always there. Think of them as the basic ingredients of any experience. You've got attention, which is what points your mind at something. Then contact, that's the raw data flowing in. Feeling is that instant reaction like, dislike, or totally neutral. Perception is what slaps a label on it. That's a tree or that's a threat. And finally, volition is the little nudge that decides what to do next. These 5 things, they are the absolute bedrock of every single thought you have. Okay, so on top of that foundation, other factors can pop up, depending on the situation. The text points out 5 really important ones that can shape our experience for better or for worse. There's desire, that pull towards something. Conviction, our solid belief about it. Mindfulness, which keeps us on track. And then concentration and wisdom, which let us see things more clearly. And look, whether your mind feels chaotic or crystal clear, it often just boils down to which of these factors are in the driver's seat. All right, so we've got the building blocks. And now the text paints this incredible picture of the mind as, well, as a kind of battlefield, a constant tug of war between 2 opposing forces, the wholesome, clear states and the afflicted, messy states. So where do all our troubles come from? The text points to something it calls latent afflictions. This is a huge concept. It's saying our problems aren't just about what's happening right now. They come from these deep-seated, dormant tendencies. Think of them like dormant seeds, little seeds of discontent, just sitting there in the mind, ready to sprout and make us suffer. This is the real source of all that mud in the stream we were talking about. So what exactly grows from these seeds? Well, the text gives us a list of the 6 main antagonists in our mental story. These are the root afflictions, the usual suspects. You've got craving and its flip side, aversion. Then there's ignorance about how things really work. And then you have conceit or pride, holding wrong views about reality, and that paralyzing feeling of doubt. The idea here is that pretty much all of our mental suffering can be traced back to one or more of these 6 troublemakers. But of course, there's another side to this fight. The text lays out 11 protagonists, the wholesome mental factors that are the antidote to the afflictions. You can see a few of them here. Faith, or confidence, which is the direct opposite of doubt. Non-craving and non-aversion tackle their afflicted twins head-on. What's so powerful about this is that it's not just a list of what's wrong, it's giving us a super detailed picture of what a healthy mind actually looks like, and the specific good qualities we can cultivate to win this inner tug of war. And this, right here, just perfectly lays out the stakes of this whole internal battle. I mean, look at the contrast. The wholesome stuff purifies our mind, frees us up, and leads to joy. The afflictions, on the other hand, just stain everything, cause harm to ourselves and others, and trap us in these negative loops, now and down the road. I mean, the text couldn't be clearer. It's a choice between two totally different ways of living. Okay, so if we're stuck in this tug of war, how do we make sure the good guys win? Well, the text doesn't just point out the problem, it lays out this complete step-by-step blueprint for breaking free from suffering. It's a real practical guide to clearing up that cloudy stream. And at the heart of this blueprint are the Four Noble Truths, which the text frames in this genius medical analogy. It's so simple. Step 1. Diagnose the illness, which is the truth of suffering. Step 2. Figure out the cause, the truth of the origin. Step 3. Determine the possibility of recovery, which is the truth of cessation. And Step 4. Prescribe the medicine, the truth of the path. It's just so logical and honestly, really empowering when you think about it. So let's dig into what the text actually means by each of these. Suffering is just what life feels like when it's being run by those afflictions. The origin points the finger directly at those afflictions as the cause. Cessation is the great news, the prognosis that says, hey, this illness and its cause can be totally cured. And the path is the medicine, the practical steps you take to get there. You can see it's this really elegant system for understanding exactly what's wrong and how to fix it. So, when you pull it all together, after going through this incredibly detailed analysis, what's the big takeaway? It all circles back to that first big idea. Because your mind's basic nature is pure, these afflictions, they aren't who you are. They're not some permanent stain on your character. They're just temporary conditions, like clouds passing in front of the sun. And because they're just conditions, they can be understood, they can be worked with, and ultimately, they can be overcome. And that really leaves us with one last thing to chew on. If our afflictions are just temporary clouds, how are we supposed to relate to them? Do we see them as this enemy we have to crush and destroy at all costs? Or, as this ancient text seems to be pointing to, could they actually be something else? A signal, maybe, a misunderstanding, and maybe, just maybe, an opportunity to understand our own minds on a much deeper level and to finally uncover that pure, clear nature that's been there all along.